Hello everyone and welcome to another bonus episode. I'm Gabe and today we'll be filling in some much needed 3-stage designs with your ideas. Now, the initial prompt was from way back in September, but I got so many good ideas from it that I had to break up the designs into 3 parts, and we'll finally be knocking out the last of them here. Okay, let's take a look at the first suggestion from Impish Deluhan, and it is so good. Basically, he suggested that we do an origin to the dragon type. He pointed me towards some really interesting speculative biology, which is kind of my thing, and also hinted that getting a true amphibious origin, kind of like the Charmander line, would be pretty neat. So let's give that a shot. If we're gonna go amphibious, we just have to start out with a little tadpole. Since this will be evolving into something dragon-like in the end, I wanted to make sure that it started out pretty adorable and unassuming. The main design element here are the external gills. The external placement of the gills is going to be extremely important as we progress towards a dragon body plan, and it's a fun bit of speculative evolution as well. These external gills are also just stinking cute. I mean, it looks like this little guy is wearing like a headband or silly little earmuffs. The color palette ended up this purple, mainly because the Palean region is lowest on poison types. And a toxic amphibian line felt right too. Oh, and the shinies for this line are going to be the same colors as the Charmander line, since, it's also an amphibian dragon line. The big difference between the two being that I'll be justifying that transition to dragon a little bit more. Okay, let's learn about this squishy little goober. Here is Gilzefo, the tadpole Pokemon. This small amphibian excretes a poisonous film from its skin as a defense mechanism. Gilzefo constantly wiggle their large external gills around to circulate fresh water past them, and not reabsorb too much of their own toxins. They are quite clumsy out of the water, but do their best to walk on their tiny legs. And its ability is water absorb, so that means it will restore HP if hit by a water type move. It's pretty darn cute, and I can't help but imagine it, fluttering its little ear gills whenever it gets excited. Okay, but it needs to evolve. We're going to bring in an additional bit of inspiration for this middle stage. There is a colossal prehistoric frog called the Bezelbile that I was just looking for a way to work into things, and this middle stage is just perfect for it. It will be maintaining a little bit of tail since it needs that in the final form, but other than that, it gets to be just a big round meanie. The puffy little eyes of Gilzefo turn into these where the eyes kind of have bags under them to help sell the sickly poison type. The external gills have also developed into larger display structures with more mobility. Interesting, yes, interesting. The colors, again, nice and poisony, with the shiny now getting Charmeleon vibes. Alright, let's learn about Gilzefo, the poison toad Pokemon. This ancient toad retains its external gills and now uses them as a warning display. Gilzefo wiggle their gills as menacingly as they are able to. They prefer to sit in shallow swamps and leap up towards any bug-type Pokemon who flies too close. And its ability remains water absorb. I'm sure it is slimy, but I just want to pat this little jerk on its head. I also, wish I could see it, just jumping straight up and fluttering its little gill appendages. In fact, that activity in particular is what helps it evolve. Now, we get to have a much more familiar silhouette. The gills are now fully developed into functional wings. The body is still a bit stubby to show that it's basically a salamander, and the snout in particular is rather short since, it was recently a snub-nosed little frog. I thought about adding the dragon typing, but decided to keep things, again, close to the Charmander line again, so instead of dragon, it'll be gaining the flying type. It is the ancestor to dragon type, so its descendants will become true dragons. Alright, let's meet Bezelbile, the proto-dragon Pokemon. This strange winged salamander seems to be the ancestor to many modern dragon-type Pokemon. Bezelbile's large gills have become powerful wings, allowing it to sail through the skies with ease. Trainers should be wary as it still secretes poison from its skin, and its ability, again, still water absorb. It's a good start to the dragon lines, if I do say so myself, but you'll have to let me know what you think of these amphibians. Would you put the weak little Gilzefo on your team to get Bezelbile in the end? Alright, we're halfway through and have another set of suggestions to look at. Brendan Turnbridge, Damian Blake, and Douster all suggested we get a Dilophosaurus in here. Pretty neat. Brendan in particular said a primal form of Helioptile would be really interesting, and I couldn't agree more. When it evolves, it will have a more developed frill than normal, so starting off, the cute little ears will just need to be a bit wider. I also didn't want to overcomplicate the design, but I also didn't want it to read as just a simple palette swap, so along with some little shapes on its back, we're adding these cute little eyebrow ridges. We'll eventually need to get to those iconic crests of the Dilophosaurus, so this is a good way to start. As far as the color palette goes, this Helioptile hasn't mastered harnessing solar energy as effectively, as its modern counterpart, so I wanted it to look like it's just all sunburnt. And this color palette works really well for that. Alright, here is Primal Helioptile, the baking Pokemon. This ancient form of the familiar electric type does harness sunlight, but only to raise the temperature of its body. Primal Helioptile lets its flat ears bake in the sun and can refocus that heat into powerful blasts of fire from its mouth. This Pokemon is quite sweet, but often a bit too liberal with its use of fire. Its ability is Solar Boost, and that's pretty similar to its normal ability, but instead of boosting the special attack stat, it boosts the attack. And I like that it's, dangerous, but still a little sweetie. Even enjoying how the little head crests kind of look like a little bow to start off. But let's see what happens when it evolves. Now, we're going to be getting into the territory of the familiar Jurassic Park Dilophosaurus. And before anyone says, yes, of course, I am aware that the Dilophosaurus from the Jurassic Park series is very different from the real animal. But just for now, we'll be sticking with it. It also works particularly well for a design that spits fire, and as it now is gaining the poison typing, spits poison as well. I will be keeping the body shape mostly the same, though we will be extending the eyebrow ridges on Helioptile into proper crests, and giving the open frill a little bit more definition. I had to really resist the urge to make the frill too complicated, especially since, this line has to evolve again. It did take a bit of time to land on appropriate colors. It needs to read as fire and poison type, but also kind of pay homage to the Jurassic Dilophosaurus design. Took a while, but we got there. Oh, and I'm sure you saw before, but the shinies are the modern line's colors. Okay, let's see Primal Heliolisk, the baking Pokemon. Not satisfied with the temperatures that the sun can provide, this determined fire type regularly ingests caustic materials in hopes of increasing their power. Because of this dangerous habit, Primal Heliolisk is filled with toxic chemicals, which it has learned to spit at opponents with extreme accuracy. And its ability remains Solar Boost. It's pretty fun, I like it. But I can hear you say, where could it possibly go from there? Well, let's have our Dilophosaurus turn into something that is more accurate. First off, the real Dilophosaurus was much bigger, so it's gonna be, bigger. Secondly, there's no fossil evidence that it had an extendable neck frill. It's not impossible, just highly, highly unlikely. And the same goes for spitting venom. So we're gonna downplay those a little bit here, especially the neck frill. Also, for the real Dilophosaurus, the head crest was likely a display structure and possibly had extremely bright colors. There's also a decent chance that, like most dinosaurs, it had at least some form of proto-feathering or quills. In fact, we have yet to have a design with some some real flamboyant display feathering, that dinosaurs may have had, so now is as good a time as ever. The design came together pretty quickly, especially after I threw in those large feather quills, but the colors kicked my butt for a while. Finding the perfect balance of dark features and warning display colors was tough, but we eventually got there. Alright, here is Heliofur, the baked Pokemon. This predator uses brightly colored feathers to warn others from approaching. Though quite colorful, Heliofur is an effective predator, as it is able to strike prey with flaming toxins from so far away that they are rarely seen before the prey is hit. And its ability, again, still Solar Boost. It's pretty terrifying, but maybe it could still be your friend. Let me know what you think of this Primal Helioptile line and its new third stage. I had a blast working with your suggestions on these new designs. I can always count on you nerds to inspire me with just really amazing concepts. Well, with that, I just wanted to thank you for watching and, please leave a like if you enjoyed the video. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the episode down in the comments below, and I'll see you in episode 29, where we will be taking on the Ghost-type Elite Four member. Bye!